Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram, Om Sai Ram. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sai Karnananda Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Jagat Guru Bal Yogiraj Sai Nara Maharaj ki Jai. Sai Leelavati Mata ki Jai. Shri Sai Baba of Shirdi. A glimpse of Indian spirituality. 8th edition by Rao Bahadur M.W. Pradhan, ex-member of Legislative Council, Bombay Government. Introduction to first edition. My dear Baba Sahib Tarkhad, I am very glad to learn that you wish to publish an English rendering of Marathi memo left by our late lamented friend Kaka Sai Dikshit about our Sadguru Sai Maharaj of Shirdi, who to my mind represented perfection so far as it can possibly be conceived by an imperfect being like myself. No pause that I can bestow is too high for him. May I am afraid I cannot see anything that will really come up to the mark. I count it as the greatest piece of good fortune that circumstances led me to his feet, and the moment I approached them as humbly as I could, all the load of my worldly cares disappeared. Though only a few minutes before it was felt to be exceedingly oppressive and such as to excite disgust of life. This is not only my experience but of tens of thousands of others whom I met there. A rather prolonged stay among them were many highly educated gentlemen and ladies, a large number of hard headed businessmen, many who had renounced the world and led a life of devotion and piety. The whole of the countryside worshipped him and gathered around with the construct with which ants round a big lump of sugar, while many came long distances at great expense and trouble. Each went away satisfied and anxious to repeat his or her visit as often it could be managed. It was sight to see and enjoy. The wonder of wonders is that of the personage so universally admired and worshipped. Not even a single human being knew the real name. He dropped into the village, so to say, from the blue, helped the person to find his lost horse, and took up his residence there for a whole lifetime, helping everybody that came along without any destruction, securing the love and reverence for all without exception. He appeared to know the innermost thoughts of everybody. He heaved their wants and carried their comfort to all. He fulfilled my idea of God on earth. It appears to me that the idea that you have conceived of the publishing something about him comes really from higher regions, India, and for the matter of that, over whole planet of the earth appears to be approaching sarcastically catastrophic period when changes of which we can from no idea are likely to be brought about as in a twinkling of eye, and so help mankind through it influences others. Then material appear to be necessary, and the kind providence is providing them beforehand. At present man thrusts too much to what we call reason, and appears to forget that as instinct in living animals, so intuition in human beings has a place in his composition. To fulfill the purpose of his existence, he must cultivate both with humility, and not pride, and should arm not at worldly wealth and power, but knowledge and identification with all God of nature. Has hidden to accomplish tremendously great things with small and obscure beginnings, and this may be one of them. Sai Maharaj always impressed me as one who believed all religions to be true and helpful to those born to them. In their further evolution, he insisted on each following his own ritual without interfering with the that of another. The basic virtues are one and the same everywhere, and due abstention and constantly wakeful discrimination supply the necessary impetus to further progress. Humble application may, under providence, it in its own way contribute to the desired result. So I heartily welcome it and wish it all success. With kindest regards, I am yours sincerely, J.S. Kapati. Introduction to the second edition. Ever since the beginning of 1933, when the first edition of the book was published, devotees from all the India have been, as before, continuously going to Shirdi, more especially from southern India. Thus, attraction of South India to Shirdi has completely exhausted the stock of books of the first edition. Therefore, the Shirdi Sansthan Committee has forced to go in for the second edition during the present wartime, as a demand for the book is as very keen. During the last 10 years, the Saibaba's omniscience, omnipotent, omnipresence, and omniscience are being unwittingly released and experienced as before by thousands of devotees who concentrate on Sai Baba with love and devotion, whether they be in Shirdi or thousands of miles away in their own abodes. To broadcast all the experience and the inner joy of such countless people individually is physically impossible. However, the real facts about Sai Baba's divinity contained in the first edition were spread far more extensively by the devotional propaganda of Mr. B.V. Narasimha Swami, who by his innumerable publications about Sai Baba's divinity in English, Tamil, Telugu, Sanskrit, Cantonese, Malayalam, Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Bengali, and by his personal tours throughout the length and breadth of India has been carrying the knowledge of the peculiar avatar of Sai Baba of all the classes and creeds of India. Similar propaganda is carried and also by Mr. G. N. Bose, MAACWA, London, and Master Mandri Bose has 11 years old son in Calcutta and his friend Mr. S.P.R. Naidu at Matunga, Bombay. Mrs. B.A. Chowgule and B.V. Manjeshwar, at present sub-judges in Ahmednagar district, have been devotionally spreading the divinity of Sai Baba wherever they go. Another significant feature in the worship of Sai Baba as a deity is the presence of several temples, murtis, and bhajans malas established far and wide throughout the country, not only in South India, the suburbs of Bombay and the further north, etc., at the Bhivpuri, but also in the Calcutta. The South India people have donated to the Sansthan through Mr. Durkya Naidu a building plot and some funds for the construction of more housing accommodation, and undertaking made very prohibitive by war conditions at present. The above phenomena have very considerably added to the work of the Shirdi Sansthan Committee, not only as regards correspondence and but more especially with regard to the housing and the catering of the devotees, who, being inspired by the devotion, rush from thousands of miles away to the Shirdi. Throughout the 24 hours of a day, most of these devotees come as a rule inadequately provided, even with the bare necessities of life. To meet the wants of such devotees, the Sansthan Committee has been making strenuous efforts to the best of its ability to provide for more accommodation. 8 more rooms have been constructed in the Nawalkar, Wada, and the late Mr. Dikshitwara have been renovated and more building site has been purchased by the Sansthan. Two more water wells have been dug to provide the adequate water supply. The credit for these improvements to a certain extent goes to the ex-Honorable Secretary Mr. S.N. Kharkor. In order to facilitate the working of the Sansthan Committee consolidated the Sansthan rules in the separate pamphlet published on 1st October 1941. As the preamble in the said rules might be some interest of the new devotees of Saibaba, the same is appended to this volume. The present war times, as said before, are unfortunately a very great hindrance to undertake any further improvements. For example, construction of more housing accommodation and to maintain a provision of various kinds of victuals which a diversity of devotees may desire. The Sansan Committee therefore sincerely prays that Baba should very soon, Saibaba, very soon restore the normal times of peace and tranquility and thus enable it to administer to the reasonable wants of the devotees of Saibaba, especially during their stay. With regards, Mureshwar W. Pradhan. Preface. Abode to those good souls who enjoy the deep bliss of self, they shower down the water of self-bliss. In order to refresh and cool those troubled souls who are burnt by the heat of this worldly existence, they are the ornaments to Chaitanya. They adore the signs of knowledge of Brahman and they are the charming mansions where the eternal God dwells. They do not expect from the people who come to them and the acquisition of the prescribed sadhanas, nor do they expect from any prophecy in the Shastras. If people have only faith, they manifest the light of them. Ekanath Bhagavad, translated from the original Marathi. It gives me a great pleasure to edit the second edition of Shri Saibaba of Shirdi, written by Rao Bahadur M.W. Pradhan, which gives a short sketch of the life and teachings of Shri Saibaba of Shirdi, great saint of Maharashtra. During the early period of 20th century, if biography of sense is difficult, that of Shri Saibaba is attended with difficulties almost insuperable. A cloud of misery hangs over all the affair of his life and completely wells of his birth, parentage, and early life. None knows definitely anything about that period. In spite of such difficulties, Rao Bahadur Pradhan has made a successful attempt in giving a short but a vivid account of Sri Sai Baba's life, which has become very useful, especially to those who had no occasions to see him personally. And for this is the Shirdi Sansthan Committee is greatly indebted to the Rao Bahadur. In this edition, this author had naturally surveyed the main incidents regarding the Shirdi Sansthan during the last 10 years. Other features of this sant that struck even casual observers were this unaccountable and marvelous knowledge of the things and events for removed from him in the sense of time and space, and the remarkable power of foretell coming events or to force events to come to pass in accordance with his supreme will. Visitors noted with devout admiration that he was frequently mentioning either expressly or allusions at their innermost secret thoughts, their remote past of which they had lost all memory, and incidents that occurred hundreds of miles away from his residence which none could possibly have communicated with him to him. Such miracles are seen to happen at the desire of the great saint. Some Vedanti that all miracles are brought about the use of siddhis, and the siddhis being obstacles on the path of self-knowledge. They express their disapprobation regarding such siddhis and to some extent are even afraid of them. It is no doubt true that siddhi are obstacles on the spiritual path, but we must distinguish between different kinds of siddhis. The siddhis acquired by the practice of Hatha Yoga by Changadeva are quite different from the Atma Siddhi of Shri Dhyana Deva. The miracles happened at the desire of Shri Saibaba with the siddhis of the latter sort. By such divine powers, may persons were first attracted to Sri Sai Baba to secure only temporal gains, but ultimately he made his devotee aspire to secure spiritual happiness and attainment of self-realization. It is a real mission of sense. Sri Sai Baba has fulfilled his mission to the satisfaction of many devotees who came to him. The ultimate goal of human life is to realize God within and to become merged in Him. We may go further and say that this is the birthright of every human being, and in order to achieve this ideal, the sadhaka has to go and bow at the feet of Sadguru, who is called because he makes the disciple realize a Sat Vastu, that is everlasting thing, and makes him experience perfect calmness of mind by making him realize his own self. Sri Sai Baba was, as said above, a real Sadguru at whose feet I had the great fortune to pass many days during my young age. Listening to his conversation, which was very instructive and delightful, and which has become a source of spiritual inspiration for me. Even now, it has also become a source of consolation and solution when I was battered with temporal as well as spiritual difficulties. I will conclude this preface with this prayer, and may this small book be a source of spiritual inspiration to those who read it, and may Sri Sai Baba give perfect happiness, both temporal and spiritual, to all those who have a strong reliance on him. With best regards, Sant Dasanudas, Yashwant Janardhan Galvankar. Introduction to 8th edition. It gives me real pleasure to present the 8th edition of this book to all Sai Bhaktas. The very fact that the book has run into his 8th edition is a testimony to the popularity for lakhs of Bhaktas who visit Shirdi every year. This book gives, in a nutshell, the early history of Sai Baba and the background of which the Shirdi Sansan was founded. The Nirnaya Sagar Press have done an excellent job of printing it. They deserve our sincere thanks. With best regards, K.S. Pathak, Receiver, Shirdi Sansthan. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sai Karnananda Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Jagat Guru Bal Yugraj Sai Nara Maharaj ki Jai. Sai Leelavati Mata ki Jai. Om Sai